Good afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to the Public Works and Finance Committee April 23rd meeting. We'll get started with the first item on the agenda, which is to approve the Public Works and Finance Committee April 9th minutes.
Move to approve as presented, Chairman.
Yep. They all look great, so we can move them on. Item number 2, Morgan's Orchard Park Playground Slab and Pathway. Hi, David.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you. So this is the Morgan's Orchard Park Playground Slab and Pathway. Parks and Recreation Department is requesting authorization to retain Knox Concrete for the concrete work out at Morgan's Orchard Park in the amount of $18,780. This will include about 50 linear feet of pathway that'll be 8 feet wide to access the playground, and a pad of concrete measuring 36 by 48. The pad of concrete is what will mount the playground and the safety tile surfacing to that Council approved February 20th of this year to purchase that equipment and safety tiles. So this is the second half of the project. This is my rendition of the site plan, so excuse the hand drawn, but
I appreciated it. Yeah.
it worked.
It's
So.
still, yeah.
So yeah, concrete accessible path to the playground, and then a concrete pad for the playground itself. So, on April 9th, the city issued a solicitation of bids to 4 concrete contractors in the area. We received 3 bid proposals: Knox Concrete, McCall's Classic Construction, and Curtis Concrete Construction. So as part of this, we're requesting Hamilton funds for the project per the City Council Resolution 2017-07, in the amount not to exceed $20,658. That includes the $18,780 for Knox Concrete to do the work, plus a 10% contingency. This will be in capital projects. Our recommendation is to retain Knox Concrete for the project, and we're hopefully in the contract it'll be the end of June to have the concrete installed for a July construction for the playground equipment and tiles. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I had wanted to just commend you all on the amount of paperwork you have to do to pour concrete. I had no idea. So,
Thank you, and I had some help with our engineering department
good
too.
gracious. That was all. I couldn't believe how many documents there were. So I got a great education about the importance of all the aspects of laying concrete, but I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
Did you have any?
I noticed
No.
that too. I think when I hit the packet, I think I saw that was 115 pages.
Yeah.
Most of it does.
What, 168 in today's packet?
Did you have any questions or anything?
No, I would recommend that we send this on to the consent agenda to be board
Okay.
finished and
Thank
cured.
you.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So yes, let's put it on the consent agenda. Unanimous. Thank you. Item number 3, White Avenue water main replacement. With Bob. Hi.
Good afternoon. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you today about the White Avenue water main replacement project. This project is intended to replace about 1,200 linear feet of water main ahead of the White Avenue pathway project. This is water main that's given us issues in the past, and we didn't want to build new infrastructure right over top of it. The engineer's estimate for the project was $319,784.63. We got 2 bids on the project. The high bid was from Cray Construction at $313,328, and the low bid was from Germer Construction at $281,495.50. Our staff is recommending that we accept the low bid from Germer Construction at $281,495.50 and award that contract to Germer Construction.
And just for clarification, how do you say your last name?
Bouvel.
Bouvel. Okay, I just want
Yeah.
to make sure. Okay. I didn't have any questions again with any of the paperwork.
Yeah, this seems pretty straightforward to me. It's something that needs to be done because we don't want to dig up the way to fix a water leak in the
We've
near
had quite a
future.
few,
That's
we've
not a
had
good
quite a
idea.
few breaks on this water main in the last couple of years, and the idea of putting brand-new infrastructure over top of that was not a good idea, so.
That's great.
It was a little bit of a rush job, but we were able to get it out, and
I like the idea that it came in substantially under the engineer's estimate. That's
always
something we haven't seen a lot of recently, so
Yeah.
that's great.
yeah, that was a little surprising to us as well, that it came in that far under engineer's estimate. We've been hearing rumors that the contractors were gonna be busy this year, so, yeah, we were pleased.
Did you like it on consent agenda? Or do you
Yeah,
wanna
I think
put it-
this is a bookkeeping item. Let's move it forward. We don't need to,
Under what was budgeted for it by
yeah,
15%?
40,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so great.
Great, thank you.
So that we'll put on consent agenda. Yep. Item 4, the 2018 Pavement Management Program Slurry Seal Award. Scott, I have to tell you, just before you get started, hey, Tyler. So in learning all the differences between slurry seal and chip seal and all that, I was really appreciative that on the website, I went and read about them. So, yes, because I went under projects and got to it, so, because I had wanted to know the difference. So, again, thank you for putting all that, making that available, so it's very helpful. So, you go ahead and get started.
Yeah. This year's, part of this year's pavement management program will be the slurry seal. This one, we originally had on the books that we were gonna do a larger slurry seal project this year. This particular treatment we've been doing since 2011, and we do it about every 2 years, this particular type of treatment for the very cost-effective treatment. This is typically run less than $2 a square yard, whereas other types of treatments have a little more structure to it, or sometimes 4 or 5 times as much, up to complete rebuilds, which is, probably about 30 times as much. So we like to try and keep our good roads good instead of letting them get in worse condition. It costs a lot more money. So this one, back in December, we had applied for a grant through Local Highway Technical Advisory Council as part of their community choice. No, this was a
Surplus eliminator.
yeah, this
deal,
was a
wasn't it?
surplus eliminator. And we had received the grant for that particular one, and council had approved that back on March 19th. So the grant money that we had received for this was $477,540, based upon the engineer's estimate that we had at the time. We put this one out to bid on April 17th, and we also got really good bids back on this. We had 4 bids that we'd received, with the low bid coming in at $443,051. So, maybe Tyler wants to give a little explanation about why we go with slurry seals.
Yeah, it's been a very encouraging process. It was the first time we did a slurry seal. We worked up and generated a specification, and that's been 7 years ago now. And we were the first ones in our region to do a slurry seal. We've really shifted our focus to surface treatments and really trying to keep those good roads good. And we've had a lot of success in the area with them. As Scott mentioned, it's kind of our first line of defense. It's the equivalence of an oil change in a car. It's that basic maintenance item that if we do, we can prolong the life of the roads. And for a long time, roads were just you put them down, you let them go, and then they fell apart. So it's really the equivalent of driving the car with never changing the oil until the engine seizes up, and then going and buying a new engine. What we're trying to do is do that maintenance, change that oil, so that we can keep them good. The first time we put it out, we had, I think, 2 bidders, and one was astronomical. And so it's been great. Through our street maintenance co-op, we've cooperated with several entities in the area. And so since more and more quantity has come out of this area now, we get 4 competitive bidders, where before we only had 1 real competitive bid before. So that's been very encouraging to see. And, the city of Moscow really has been recognized recently for our pavement management program. We were just asked just a couple days ago, there's it's the National Center for Pavement Preservation, and they have 3 regions for the country. And so in the western region, which is everything west of Colorado, they have a conference in October in Portland, and they've asked the city of Moscow to be the representative
I was
for
wondering.
pavement preservation in the whole western region. And so it's a real honor to, as a small city, to be working toward doing things right and trying to save the taxpayer dollars. And so this is part of that process of doing those surface treatments and trying to really actively manage our pavements so that we can get the most bang for the buck.
Yeah, and kind of put it in perspective too, for the quantity that we have been doing over the past 7 years. with this particular project, it'll equate to roughly 25 miles worth of roadway that's been treated with this within the city.
That's a lot. That's a lot. I'm glad, so you're going to get to present where, in Portland?
Yeah, it's in
When?
September.
Get that up on the website too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Presentation. All right, and do you have any questions for
So,
particular?
so it sounds like you intentionally are choosing the roads that are kind of in the best shape for this treatment.
Yeah, and that's the one thing we always try and make clear, and we've tried to really talk about what we're doing because it can seem counterintuitive. You know, if I'm Mr. Jones living on the really old asphalt road that's falling apart, and I see the new, what I consider the new pavement down the block that's 5 years old getting a treatment, and I don't know that it's not being repaved. That's a question that we'll get a lot is, wait a minute, why is that road getting paved and my road's in worse shape and it's not? And it's something that we really have to explain, that it's not getting repaved, that this is a surface treatment to keep that in good shape. You know, the dollars, the way it equates out for a treatment like this, for every dollar we spend on a treatment like this, it saves us $7 down the road on a rebuild, because we're able to take something that would be a 20-year pavement and try and push it out closer to a 35 or 40-year pavement. And so, but it is something that we do get questioned about. You know, people wonder, you know, why is this street in so much worse shape, but we're doing something with that street? And really, it's just because that's where we have to prioritize keeping good roads good. And that doesn't mean that we completely ignore the worst roads, but if we end up chasing your tail if all you do is pick the worst road and rebuild it because of the cost.
And I was going to just say, to try to point out where it was on the website, that I went to read it because I went into streets, but I can't pull it up now. Do you recollect?
On the new site, I'm not positive. I think it's under the engineering tab.
Yeah, but I went under residents, and I can't remember. But it was there. So actually, what you just asked was there, because
Yep.
I didn't know how the decisions were made. And then when it comes across in the paperwork and you grade it, and you give that grading piece, so I didn't understand the grade measurement. So I went to go find out that. So it was really good that it was on there. It is on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have any questions?
No, but we've kind of been through this before. This is another one where we've got a lower bid than we have funds allocated. Do we get to, since that's surplus eliminator funds, do we get to keep that $30,000 into unused funds to go back into the?
Well, what the plan is
Capital.
for the remaining funds will either be absorbed with contingency if we choose to do more than what's there, or we can use up to 10% of the funds for reimbursement for engineering on it. So we'll keep track of all of our time for design and inspection and everything for that.
Okay, but you just don't have to return the 30 grand to the state.
No,
that
we plan
didn't
on
spend
using it in quantity.
because we
Yeah,
got-
what we do, we'd use in quantity and or engineering.
Yeah,
Get as much as we can out of it.
So we will use up the whole 477.
yeah.
And-
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I think this is
On
another
the
consent
consent
agenda item.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Okay, item 5, Paradise Path Underpass and Multimodal Extension Bid Results and Contract Award.
So this project has been around now for a couple years. Started out as a college student design project where they presented some possibilities that we could have a continuation of Paradise Path, long wide avenue towards the fairground and eventually making its way over towards Mountain View. This one, we had applied for a grant back in spring of 2016. The city was notified and awarded the grant in the spring of 2017, of which last fall we got a designer on board with doing this with the help of the Local Highway Technical Assistance Council. This is part of their Transportation Alternatives Program grant that we had received for this. So we'd gone through the full design on this and had put it out to bid on April 17th, again, with the other 4 projects that we had. We had bids come in on this one in the range of the low bid of $392,847 to the high bid of $418,719. And that's for the base bid, which was to cover from the connection to Paradise Path up to Blaine, going along White Avenue. And then the add alternate was in there in case the funding couldn't quite create the stretch all the way to the fairgrounds. So the alternate was going from Blaine to the fairgrounds entrance right there. With the way that all the funding has panned out and talking with LTAC about this, it has shown that we can do both the base bid and the add alternative. as long as we have everything programmed through these various funds here. As of right now, the $421,720.50 base bid and at alternate from the low bidder of Cray Construction, we have the funding through LTAC right now to cover all of that with some contingency left over from the city.
Okay. And I just want to clarify for you, because you're like, the bids went out and were opened on the same day, but just to make sure everybody understands that we followed the process, the bids went out on the 31st of March.
Yes.
Okay.
So staff's recommendation is to accept the low bid from Cray Construction and award the contract amount of $421,720.50 for both the base bid and the ad alternate number one.
Yep. Again, looks good to me.
And our match is 30-something, right? I can't
Yeah, our
remember.
match was the 7.34%, which equated to roughly 40,000, plus any overruns on top of that.
Okay. So,
I would be in favor of putting this on a regular agenda so that it gets publicized, gets in the paper that we're doing this project, so that maybe the public's more aware that that's what's going on there.
oh, on Third Street, because of, I'm sorry, I moved down.
No,
Sorry,
no.
I moved down.
The
Sorry.
underpass
Yeah, oh,
project.
you want more about the underpass up
Because,
there? Okay.
yeah, I've had a couple questions about what's going on over there and
Oh.
when's that gonna happen. So maybe it'd be good to put that on regular agenda since it's a fairly short presentation and we can, everybody, and then Garrett can put it in the paper. of
Your
course.
rationale makes sense. That sounds fine to me. Are you okay with that, Randy? Yeah, okay. So then this will be on regular agenda.
All right.
All right, thank you. And now, your sixth on this agenda of Third Street Polk to Hayes Phase 2 bid results and contract award. And I'd appreciate, we're gonna have some discussion on this because we got questions through our emails and stuff, so,
Sure.
yeah, there might be some people that want to ask questions.
Yeah, of all the projects that we'll be having on Third Street this year, this is the portion where we're doing the second phase of reconstruction on Third Street. The first phase ran from Hayes to Monroe, and this will be the second phase of the same reconstruction, which includes full road reconstruction and all the utilities underneath, and upgrading utility sizes. So the water main itself is upgrading from an 8-inch diameter to a 24-inch, and that's part of continuing the corridor to increase the water main size going from the tank on the east side of the town to the wells on the west side of the town helps reduce the amount of pressure in our water mains. But this phase will continue from Monroe down to Polk Street. And as part of this phase 2, with the traffic calming elements that will come in other projects in the near future, we'll be doing additional bulb outs and ADA ramps with this project on the side streets, not into Third Street.
Okay, and I think that's the explanation that was needed is about the bulb outs and Plan C. So if you would like to go further, and if Les would like to come forward, that would help us get all that information out there.
Sure.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Yeah, we did have a question earlier pertaining to the bulb outs being included in the project because there was some familiarity with Plan C that was approved by the council for traffic management and traffic calming on the Third Street corridor. Plan C is the separated two-way bike lane system, and there was only one bulb out contemplated with that set of improvements, and that was at the northwest corner of Blaine and Third, near Lena Whitmore. However, we made application for grant funding for child pedestrian safety improvements on the corridor in conjunction with everything we were doing as far as overall planning. Within that, we anticipated the installation of curb bulbs on the side streets that intersect Third. So not on Third itself, although there are components on Third like the raised crossings and the lighting and some of those things that are also within the grant. But the curb bulbs we're talking about then would be on the side streets, not on every one, but a lot of them along the way, with the idea that those that are walking on Third Street from east to west or vice versa along the corridor, they're going to be using those sidewalks. And so shortening the pedestrian crossings and increasing visibility and all those kind of things that curb bulbs do on the side streets would improve pedestrian safety along Third Street. So because that we were successful in obtaining the grant, the project then for the corridor not only does the bicycle work through using city funds, but also does all these child pedestrian enhancements to the sidewalk system and other pedestrian features along the length of the corridor. This project, which again began back in 2016 before all the corridor stuff came into play, was broken into the two phases. Second phase this year, as Scott has explained, it falls in the middle of that corridor. And so we felt it was appropriate to include the curb bulbs on those side streets that are being done under the PED grant program in this project, so it's in one footprint. So that's why you see them now. And then the rest of them that are being done as far as that pedestrian improvement project will happen later this year.
Okay.
So when it says in that bid, the 4 locations or 4 curb bulb outs, are those 4 different intersections, or do you consider one crossing 2 bulb outs? Or
It's at 2 intersections, but it's, so like the first one's on Polk Street, Polk and Third, it would be both the northwest corner and southwest corner. And then over on Howard Street, it would be the northwest corner and southeast corner.
Typically, what the curb bulb placement generally aligns with parking, and that's why it flips back and forth a little bit. Depends on which side of the street, if there's parking on one side only, which side of the street it's on, and so you put the curb bulb at the end of the parking lane to give that protection and then narrow the throat of the intersection. So that's why it varies.
And I assume with the grant that you were awarded, it permits you to do the work just off of Third. Is that considered?
Well, it was part of the grant,
Oh, perfect.
was to do the entire corridor, essentially right-of-way to right-of-way, and this is all within the Third Street right-of-way.
Okay.
I have a question that's a little bit out in the weeds, but with respect to the traffic calming things that are going on there, the consultant, have we hired a consultant to do the two-way bike lane thing yet?
Yes, we have.
That's.
They have
when
been
would
here.
we expect a?
They have been here for their
result?
site visit. Alta Planning out of Portland, primarily, also out of Montana. They were here, about 10 days ago now, I guess. Spent the day with us, walked the corridor, took in all the information, started laying out concepts for potential implementation processes for us, assessing what our plan was. Anticipated be probably early May, first week or so of May, we should get at least a draft report back from them, technical memo with some exhibits to go along with it. So as we get that, we'll run through it and see what they suggest. They seemed very positive about the concepts. They had some suggestions on how we might make some changes just while they were here, and so we'll see what they come back with us, back to us with.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
other
please.
question. So it's kind of a minor thing, but I'm curious about with the miscellaneous landscaping line, with the 3 different bids, four bids?
Yeah, typically
Yeah, there's a big variation there. I mean, are they
Sure.
given guidance as to what we want for the landscaping?
for the most part, it's described in the specification as, if they're disturbing grass or getting into somebody's rock garden or something like that, that it's going to have to be put back to its original condition. Depending on the approach the contractor takes, some are a little more protective than others when it comes to getting in there, so. Some feel that their risk is less, so they'll bid a little less on that item, or they might put more money into a different item. So, but yeah, it is described in the specification for it.
Okay, and you feel that low bid meets what you're requesting for the landscaping?
Yeah, for the most part, they shouldn't really be in people's landscaping too much with this particular project.
There's an entire art form when it comes to contractor bidding, and they all do it a little differently. Some want to put more money in certain areas, just because they feel that it gets it money earlier or things like that. Others, it depends on the way their company is structured. Some of them have landscaping capability in-house, others have to hire help. So they all vary a bit in their approach.
They still need to meet the bid specs, though.
Absolutely,
Okay.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter what price they give us, they have to meet the requirements of the job.
Okay, thanks.
And you all have a preference of where you want this one to go?
I'd say consent on this one personally, because it's the second phase of something we've already approved, and it's been through the mill more than once, so.
I felt that way too, but I just wanted to make sure we were.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, so we'll put on consent agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Mr. Reedner, item 7, request to purchase fire truck.
Thank you. Brandy's already heard my spiel the first time. We have a couple different things going on here. As you recall, in our strategic plan, the council directed us to address our aging fire truck apparatus issues. We purchased fire trucks pursuant to a bond that was passed, in 1991. All 4 fire trucks were replaced at that time. 3 of them, the engines were replaced with city bond funds, and then the city paid for half of the ladder truck, and the University of Idaho paid for half of the ladder truck. Those trucks, pumper trucks in those days, cost about $225,000. Now the price, as you will recall, was over $500,000 for these trucks. Council directed us to try to pay for these trucks within the budget, so we restructured the budget and came up with a proposal by which fire truck could be purchased in fiscal year 2017 for delivery in 2018. It was ordered in May of 2017, the first one. It is due to be here in June of 2018. It's about a year-long process. During that time, we had built into our program that the next fire truck would be purchased in 2019 for delivery in 2020. And so we have approximately $362,000, I believe is the number. Excuse me a second. Yes, $362,204 that we've accumulated, and we're due to add another, in the FY19 budget, another $350,000 to that. However, the opportunity came up to apply for a community development block grant, which we did in last fall prior to Thanksgiving. We recently just got notice last week that we were awarded that grant. It was in the amount of $289,000. So with that amount of money, we could purchase a fire truck this year if we wanted for delivery in 2019. Certainly, we could wait and order it in 2019 for delivery in 20, as was our plan. However, we've been informed that because of the recent federal government decisions to adjust tariffs for imports, we are seeing a spike in the cost of aluminum, which is a major component of the fire engine. That cost will be about $15,600 more than what we had anticipated. In addition, the inflationary rate that we've seen for fire apparatus, even from 2017, if we were to order it now, a new one, would be that the cost would increase 5%. So you add those two together, it's a significant amount of money. One of the things that we were concerned about, so we talked to the fleet department and talked to the fire department, the volunteers, as to what the next fire truck would be, because obviously if we wanted to purchase it, and if we can purchase the engine, I'm sorry, my logic isn't running too well here. If we purchase the engine, order it prior to May 1st of 2018, Hughes Fire Equipment, which is the dealer for Pierce, will sell it to us without that increased cost of the tariff. So we'd save about $15,600 immediately. In addition to that, if we pay for the fire engine up front, we'll realize another $18,000 of discount paying it up front, as we did in 2017. So fleet department checked the specs, contacted Hughes, got a offer to sell the fire truck to us. The fire department, the fire chief met with both the board of directors and company number 7, who this engine will go to. It's been determined that it will essentially be a replica of the engine that was spec'd out and ordered in 2017. So that short circuits the process quite a bit, because you don't need to respec it or reinvestigate the specifications, rewrite them. In addition, we go through a consortium out of Texas, which is also utilized by other entities in Idaho, Boise City being one of them, and that allows us to get a better deal on these fire apparatus. So with that, with the amount of funding that we've realized from our accumulation and the CDBG funding, we would like to order the engine prior to May 1st of 2018. We'll realize a total discount of approximately $33,000 if we do that, with the prepayment discount as well as the tariff or lack of the tariff spike, which seems to be significant enough for us to want to do that if we possibly can. We did receive a letter from Department of Commerce that there are some hoops we're going to have to jump through. Elisa is working on those right now, getting an environmental statement together and checking to make sure that we have the consortium is allowed or is a governmental vendor or allowed us to use them as a vendor or a conduit to get to the vendor, as Boise did and as we did in 2017. So we're getting all that together. However, our next council meeting doesn't occur until May 7th, and we need to act on this if we are going to take advantage of that discount. We will have to do that prior to May 1st. So what we would like to do, we've already presented this to Administrative Committee, and the unanimous consensus was to proceed. We're asking for that same consensus from this committee. If we receive it, we will then enter into the agreement with Hughes to purchase the engine, and we will come back to council on May 7th and request ratification of that action. So that's the proposal. It seems like there will be a certain impact to our replacement policy because we want to get to the point where we're replacing an engine every 5 years because they have 20-year life expectancy. We'd like to do, we will have a time when we may surplus an engine prior to its 20-year life so that we can receive some monies for it and get back to where we are purchasing one apparatus every 5 years. That won't occur for at least another 5 to 10 years, I would suspect. So with that, we'd like your authorization to move forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. You know, it's probably, the savings is probably even more because the price is going to go up even in excess of that tariff.
Sure.
If you wait another year, there will be a normal
Could be
inflationary
another 5%.
time value of money kind of thing. Interest rates are not going down. So I think it's a great idea. I think we should, I would move to approve that.
And you?
I have a question. I think it's a great idea too. Makes sense. I mean, we're talking really maybe 6 months earlier or something possibly, but do you know if when it's received, if it would go into immediate use since they originally weren't planning on having it for another year?
Yeah, 2 of our engines are outside of the 20-year life expectancy, so they would be replaced. The third one, I can't recall if it is at or it's very close. So by the time we order the next fire engine, which will be 2 to 3 years from now, if we order this one, the third one will be ordered 2 to 3 years from now, fiscal years, then it would also be placed immediately in service. The ladder truck is not due to be replaced till 2026, and the university is already committed to paying half for that.
All right, I think that this committee is also unanimous in going forward, and then you can bring it to the May 7th council meeting for, what was the word you said?
Thank you.
Started with an R?
Ratification.
Ratification, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 8, authorization to proceed to purchase with Magyar Building.
As the council knows, we've been discussing purchase of the Water and Sewer Department office building, commonly known as the Magyar Building, because it is owned by Magyar Investments. It's located at the corner of A and Main. We entered into an agreement as noted in the CCSR and the memo that accompanied it, that, if I could get to my memo, it would help. And we've had a lease with Magyar Investments since 2008. The amount of the lease per year is $54,000. It does, as I mentioned, house our water and sewer offices as well as our environmental services group, water conservation program, so on and so forth. The location of the building is appropriate because it's right next to our water facility at the corner of A and Jackson, and it's served pretty well since that time. The original lease was for, I believe, 5 years, or 6 years, excuse me, and since that time, we've been on a year-to-year lease. So we've continued to use it. Mr. Magyar has continued to lease it to us. Recently, within the last couple of years, there's been discussion about whether the city would be interested in purchasing the building. When we first met with Mr. Magyar back in 2008, we had wanted to enter into a lease purchase agreement so that if we were going to put the time, the location, all of that sort of thing, we wanted to be able to purchase the building at some point. We didn't come to a price at that time, so we just entered into the lease agreement. As I said, the last couple of years, there have been some trial balloons sent up as to whether Mr. Magyar was willing to sell it. We had contacted him, and then 2 appraisals were done, and we came to a price that you see in the proposal of $422,214. Now, that takes into account that there is some maintenance and repair of the building that needs to be done. We did a structural assessment of the building. And you know, it's got kind of a different roof line on it. There is some structural work that needs to be done, but it's fairly minor. So the roof itself is structurally sound, should serve the city for far into the future. There are some somewhat cosmetic. The carpet needs to be replaced. The HVAC system is inadequate and needs to be replaced as well. Those considerations have been taken into account in the purchase price. So with that, we've done just a very short analysis of, as Jim just mentioned, the time value of money. It will take us approximately, with the we figure about $67,000 to $70,000 to do all the repairs on the building. You'll see that in the FY 2019 budget proposal. With that, it's about a 10-year payback to the city for the money that we would be paying in a lease. And we would own the facility, as I indicated. It's right next to our water department facility as well, our filter plant facility, so it makes sense. We've been working on this for quite a while, and if council committee moves it forward to council and council approves it, we will enter into an agreement with Mr. Magyar to purchase that facility. The funding for the facility would come from accumulations in the water and sewer department. There would be about $300,000, including the cost of repairs, from the sewer fund, and $200,000 from the water fund. That will be equalized at a later time, so it would be half to the water fund and half to the sewer fund. Those accumulations have been made for the Public Works facility, which has been delayed because of some scoping issues and pretty extensive cost up front. So we're going back, reassessing what we can do on that facility. But this is an opportunity that we've been looking for some time, and it appears to be the right time to do it. So we're bringing that forward to you.
Any questions?
Is the amount that the city would be paying somewhat equivalent to what we're currently paying as just rent?
Meaning,
So,
it'll take about 10 years,
right.
taking into account everything. It'll take us just about 10 years assuming about a 3% inflation rate and a 3% increase, because rents also go up by that same amount every year.
So
That
the
it'll take us
amount-
about 10 years, and then we will own the building.
The amount that would become budgeted each year to pay this down would be somewhat equivalent to what we're expecting to be paying in rent if we weren't purchasing.
That's a way to look at it. This will be paid out of capital accumulation, so as we go back and we reassess the facilities needs of Public Works at the city shop complex off of Polk Street, that we will reassess that, and then we will come back to council in the budget process as that's scoped and ask for annual accumulations to try to get to whatever goal is decided upon.
I don't think we have any questions. Are you okay with putting it on consent agenda? Or do you want?
I would say we should probably put this on the regular agenda, since we're purchasing a piece of property, and the public should be aware of that, probably a little,
Okay.
should be a little more out front.
Okay,
Can certainly do that.
agenda then.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we can adjourn.